Hello, it's Caroline, and I hope you're having a great week. So, today I want to talk to you about how to break the cycle of being bad with money. And this video is for those of you who say things to yourself like, I'm terrible with money, I always spend everything that I earn. So, if you generally feel like, you're not great with money, you don't like to look at numbers, or you say, I'm no good with numbers, then this might help you manage your money a little better. So Sunday for a lot of countries around the world was Mother's Day. And so today's video is actually a bit of a shout out to my mum as well, because my mum actually taught me when I was quite young how to be really responsible with money and how to manage and track money quite well. And I'll talk about that shortly. So thank you, Mum, for that. So what I want to talk about is the number one thing that you can do to really break that cycle of feeling like you're bad with money. And that tip is actually to increase your visibility of what you're spending. Now, I'm going to focus primarily on what you spend here, because for a lot of people who are struggling to hit their income goals or make the money that they want in their business, usually there's a strong correlation between not being able to achieve your income goals and having a problem with spending money. And so if you address that first, especially if it's something that you don't like to look at, then that's going to really change your energy around money. And so we'll focus primarily on expenses today. So the number one thing that you can do to start improving your relationship with money is to track and review what you spend. And so there's two major reasons why you want to do this. So the first one is based around energy. So this is around your overall relationship with money, how you feel about money, how you feel every time you maybe hand over a credit or debit card, how you feel about, how much is sitting in your bank account, and generally whether you judge yourself about being good or bad with money, whether you spend too much. So what we're really trying to do here is, if you start to look at the problem, and I mean, actually paying attention to what you're spending each month, then you will start to face the problem head on. So you will not only see what's happening, but it's also going to alert you to any resistance that you have to dealing with money. And that's really the starting point, because we can get into this cycle of feeling like it's just something that we don't want to do, and we make it into this huge problem. And so this is going to draw your attention, increase your awareness of your relationship with money and how you feel about it. And once you're aware of how you really feel about, dealing with money and looking at your expenses, then you can start to work on that and actually improve it. So the second reason is actually more of a practical one, and that is simply around, being able to address the problem and manage it. So if you're paying attention to what you spend and you have that visibility, then you can actually take practical action to, maybe spending less, or like maybe setting yourself a bit of a budget and really just getting on top of managing your money game. And so, again, by not doing this, we end up practically making the problem bigger than what it is. So if you lose sight of what you're spending, it is really, really easy for small things to just add up and get out of control. And so in the Money Mindset Bootcamp that I run, one of the big things that we do is, and we've just done it in the last week, is I get everybody to look at their money in real terms. So we do a bit of a one-time exercise, like a data gathering exercise, to go through and set what your budget is. And now I will say, I don't like to get hung up on like the detail of budgeting. You don't need to budget like down to the last dollar, but it is good to understand buckets of spend. And what I mean by that is, if your household generally spends, I'll say $2,000 a month on like your groceries and all sorts of things. Like obviously it depends on the size of your family. It could be 2, could be 4, whatever that number is, you want to have an idea of roughly what it is that you spend. And this sort of helps you to have an idea of, did I go over, did I go under, and why did that happen? But I certainly don't advocate tracking every single item, like down to the last cent. Like there's just no sense in that. And so there's working out, what your budget is in these broad buckets, but then there's actually having some practical tools to managing your expenses month in, month out. And especially if you're in credit card debt. So if you're in debt, you really, really want to be watching those expenses every month. And this is the bit that I learned from my mum. So this might sound a little crazy, but hear me out. When I was 16, my mum let me have my own credit card, and it was linked to her account. So, it wasn't something I just had on my own. And it wasn't like I was allowed to sort of run off and just go crazy with it, but I sort of had an allowance, like my pocket money, and I was allowed to spend up to that amount on the credit card, but also use it to pay for things, like school fees and school books and that kind of thing, just to make it easier rather than, I guess, my mum having to sort of hand me cash and stuff like that. So the deal was, though, I was allowed to have this credit card, but I had to agree to fill out a spreadsheet every month, listing out what all the expenses were and just being fully accountable for what went on that card. And so this got me into the habit of actually tracking money. So the deal was I was allowed to have a credit card, but I had to, behave like an adult and be responsible with money. And so this set some really good foundations for me knowing how to track money. And that spreadsheet that my mum gave me to use is the exact one that I share with people now in my bootcamp, because it just works. And the thing that I love about it is that it not only increases your visibility of what you're spending and how easy it is for expenses to get out of control, but you can actually treat it like a game and play that game in reverse and start to see how every little bit of money that you put down as a repayment towards your credit card, how you can reverse that cycle and actually pay it off super fast, just with little amounts, adding up to go back and pay back that money. So let's talk about some things that you can do practically. So if you feel that you are bad with money, ways that you can increase your visibility is, firstly, make sure you open those credit card statements. So I know that when you're in debt and it feels awful, the last thing that you want to do is open it up, because when you do and you see that the balance has increased even more, I know that your heart just sort of sinks into your stomach. And, it's such a horrible feeling, but you've got to face that resistance, because that's the first step to being able to clear that trauma and negative energy that you feel around your expenses. And once you confront that, then you can start to take the practical action to actually clearing the debt. And so when I say practical action, once you open those statements, I highly recommend actually putting all of those items into a tracker every month. So yes, it is a little bit of admin work, and I know that you can download statements from your bank and even import all the data, but that's not the idea. The idea here is to increase your visibility. And if you take your statements and you actually write out everything that you've spent, add it up and have a look at like where you're at now compared to your opening balance, then you're going to start to train your mind as well to really see how all of those little amounts of, $20 here, $50 there, how easily a few of those items add up to become thousands that you spent in that particular month without even realizing it. And I think it is now so much easier to do that now that we have things like Tap and Go and Apple Pay. It's almost like you can burn the candle at both ends, because you've got things that maybe come in through direct debit, but then at the same time, you're going, grabbing a coffee, grabbing little things that you see, and it's just sort of tap, 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 and it's so easy to do. And then you don't realize it, but you've spent double the money because you've spent it both through direct debits and through like constant tapping on little things. And this is how spend gets out of control so easily. So start to track this stuff and you will see what your habits are. You will see whether you've suddenly introduced like an extra $10 or $20 a day of costs just from tapping. And I'm not saying here that you shouldn't be spending money, but this is more if you're stuck in a cycle where you can't, for example, break out of debt, then it's these types of habits that are going to increase your awareness around how you're spending money. And there are things that you can do in the short term to get out of debt. And once you've got that under control, then you can start to develop some healthy habits and, set some sensible limits for yourself based on your income and your budget. So I hope you found that helpful. So definitely give that a go, increase your visibility. And if you want some help with that and you want my tools for actually tracking your money and learning how to get out of credit card debt, then please do reach out to me. I'd love to get on a call with you and we can see whether you might be a good fit for my bootcamp. So I'd love to hear from you. Please leave me a comment below and let me know whether tracking your money is something that you do to help you break out of that cycle and to become a better money manager. So thank you for watching. I'm Caroline Labor, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.